If your nib's too slow and your ink won't flow, here's one of the places that you can go. Larry is here to help you through with Mr. Announcer and Cubby too. It's Larry's Fountain Pen Reviews.
Hey folks, Larry here, and today we're going to talk about an architect nib that I picked up from Federalist Pens. Well, Frank sent this nib to me about a week or so back ago, so I've been checking out the nib to see what I think about the nib. To tell you the God's truth is that when I first put the nib to paper, it didn't do much for me. I don't know, it's, I guess it's just me. But after I wrote with this nib for over a week, I have bonded with the nib. It's a different type of nib. Well, now this one was made an architect nib out of a fine nib, okay? And the way these nibs come from Federalist Pens, they already come with the feed and you can screw it in. Like it fit this Monteverde Regatta perfectly. So that was a plus right there. So I'm not sure how much these nibs are. I think Frank sells them, don't hold me to this, around $50 maybe. Mark Backus, I believe, is the person that grinds these nibs for him, for that architect grind. And he does an amazing job, and he's quite busy. So, architects' nibs are for sketching, just scribbling, or just everyday writing. You can write in your journal, take notes. It does it all. It's a smooth writer, and it has some really good ink flow on the nib. And it just sails across the paper, is what I liked about it. So, what was it that I didn't like when I first put the nib to paper? Well, why don't you join me for a little writing session here, and then I'll get back to the nib again. Okay, so if you hold it at a 90-degree angle, it would be like this. Well, I'm not going to write like this, so I'm going to go down more likely to a 45-degree angle and when I write. So let me show you how this nib works. So when you, let's say you're going to do your downstroke, okay? Here's a downstroke. And you're going to get a thin line. When you do your side stroke, you're going to get a thick line. And this is going to be a thin line, okay? Can you tell the difference already? I can. So, I guess never really using an architect nib before, I was expecting more of a, I guess just a stub nib, and that's not the case. Now, a stub nib is cut straight across the nib, just like that. It's cut straight across. In fact, let me show you on this Nibison right here. That nib is cut straight across. Bam. Where the architect nib, I have a drawing of it, but you probably will totally laugh at my drawing. Let me show you here. I can't draw, so there is the architect nib. That's the best I could show you. Okay? And then, like I just said, the stub nib right here, it cuts straight across, where the architect nib is curved more. If that makes any sense. It's a very unique nib. Is it for everybody? Yes and no. I guess it just depends on the individual person's taste. They're a lot of fun. Like I said, I've been using it a lot, and I really have been enjoying it. So let's write a little bit, show you how it writes. Okay, now let's do some printing with this. And we'll just do some downstrokes, thin lines, and then you're going to come over with your cross stroke, a thicker line. So that's an architect nib. So compare that with a fine nib. I'll put your downstroke here and your cross stroke here. It's going to be the same, okay? And I'll just do a little bit of writing up here. Okay. Now, up against the architect nib, I'll put the fine nib and do a downstroke. So that's much wider still than the architect. And when you do the cross stroke, you can see the difference in the line, because the fine nib has not been touched on the tip. Let me show if I can show you the tips of these nibs. See if we can show these nibs. You can't see much really there. Let's turn them upside down. I want to get a good look at that nib. You can see how that nib is right there. Here's the architect nib right there. You can see the difference right there compared to the fine nib. Totally different points on it. It's the way they grind the nibs down. That's what makes a difference. And it takes some work. I mean, not just anybody can do it. It takes a skill, nibmeister, to do this. And Mark Backus is one of the gentlemen that does it. He's extremely busy. And like I said, Frank from Federalist Pens gets those architect nibs from him. And they're just really an amazing nib. I like this nib so much, I think I'm going to have to order me a medium architect nib and play around with that a while. I'm glad that I did take the time and give this nib a chance to see what it could do. And like I said, I've been writing with my journal, been doing notes with it, scribbling, drawing, and I can't draw. I draw stick people. So, but I've had a good time bonding with the nib, and it's a keeper. It really has impressed me. So, an architect nib. Okay. Is it for anybody? Well, yes and no. There are some people that don't like them. There's many people who do love them. So if you're new in the fountain pen world and you've been thinking about an architect nib or a stub nib, you know, my suggestion is they don't cost a lot and they're a lot of fun to use. I would say go for the architect nib and just have some fun with it. I think you're going to be glad you did. I mean, you're learning not just about fountain pens, but you're learning about the different types of nibs. And there's a variety of nibs out here in this fountain pen world that will really just blow you away. And they also call it the Hebrew Arabic architect. And you can think of this, it says here, as a stub rotated 90 degrees. Bam, okay? And like I just said previously, it creates that thin vertical line and a thick horizontal line because the nature of the way it's ground, okay? And it's important to hold your pen at that correct angle. And what's cool about this one, it just screws in and screws out, and you're done with it. In fact, let me just show you, okay? I don't mind getting my fingers inky. And place my finger here and just twist it right off. And this is how the unit came. Now, if you just want the nib, you have to talk with Frank. If you want the nib, if you want the whole unit, get with Frank. He'll answer your questions better than I can address them. Frank's the man that knows about these nibs. But I can tell you what I know about these nibs is that they really are worth the money to invest in them. You will have lots of fun with the nibs, and you'll be learning as well. And that's what fountain pens, in my opinion, is all about. You're learning about the fountain pen, but then you're also learning about the nib. It will keep you interested in nibs for sure. You know, one time I never did like or care for fine nibs or extra fine nibs. I've always been a medium type nib person. But I started venturing out and trying broad nibs and double broad nibs and even a triple broad nibs and 1.0 stubs, 1.1s, 1.5s, 1.9 I believe there was. Among us nibs, it just blew me away. And then I tried that fine nib. A friend of mine said, Larry, try this fine nib. I just, oh, okay. Well, I tried it, and wow, I really liked the way it write. And then I even tried extra fine. I don't like scratchy nibs. I don't like dry nibs. They're boring. They're dull. They're not fun for me. And I tend to lose interest quickly. This nib, this architect nib, is a nice, smooth, wet, fun nib. And it doesn't break the bank. So if you're interested in getting a cool nib, I suggest you call Frank at Federalist Pens and ask him about this architect nib. You can also look up the Nibsmith, and which is Mark Backus, and you can read all about the nib. That might help you get some questions going on in your head about this nib. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Leave your comments below. Tell me what your thoughts on an Architect nib is. Like I said, it's not for everyone, but I'm sure glad that I tried the nib because I've had a lot of fun with it. And I'm not just trying to sell the nib. The nib will sell itself once you get a hold of the nib. It's a great, fun nib. It works extremely well. And I'm going to be using it for a while before I rotate this pen out because I've had that much fun with it. So that's going to wrap it up today. Get a good close-up shot of the nib. And I hope you found this nib interesting. And I hope the curiosity will lead you into maybe exploring, going outside the box, trying new adventures. And certainly an Architect nib would be a totally new adventure. Check out Federalist Pens. Give him a buzz. And that phone number, Mr. Announcer, is
1-866-746-4900.
And remember, Frank has 10% discount codes you can use. You can use Larry, or he has several codes you can look for. So that's going to wrap this video up about this beautiful, unique, fun-loving Architect nib. Great nib. A lot of fun. Folks, thank you for joining me today. Be safe out there. Wash those hands as usual. And again, don't text and drive. And a lot of peace and love your way. Ink it up. Bye-bye.